Good morning, class. Welcome to the second lecture video of ME269 Material Science and Engineering. So in this video, I will be discussing the nature of materials, focusing on the classification and its composition. So let's get started. So classification of materials. So classification of materials, it is categorized into five, which are metals, non-metals, ceramics, polymers, and composites. And the metal part is divided into two or classified into two, which are ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Polymers is categorized as well into three, which are thermoplastics, thermosets, and elastomers. So, pag-usapan muna natin yung metals. Kagaya na nabanggit ko kanina, nakakategorize siya into two, no? So, bale, ferrous and non-ferrous. Pag-usapan muna natin yung ferrous metals. Pag sinabi nating ferrous metals, it usually implies that iron is a large percentage of the elemental composition, which generally makes them vulnerable to rust when exposed to moisture. So kaya nga siya tinawag na ferrous kasi ang majority ng part niya or the majority element is Fe or iron. So most ferrous metals are magnetic, which makes them very useful for motor and electrical applications. So example ng metals is first alloy steel, stainless steel, cast iron, and wrought iron. All of which is metals, no, or ferrous metals. Majority ng compositions nila is iron. So anong difference nito? Take note with the terminology steel, cast iron, and wrought iron. So ang difference nila ng steel, cast iron, and wrought iron is the carbon content. Si carbon kasi yung usually alloying element ng iron, no? So kapag masyadong maliit yung carbon as an alloying element dun sa ating iron, that is called wrought iron. Masyadong puro or masyadong malaking percentage yung tinitake up ni iron, no? So sobrang part lang ng percentage yung carbon. That is wrought iron, no? In terms of ano naman, kapag medium content ng carbon yung ano natin, ang ating iron, that is called steel. So another type of steel is stainless steel, no? So pinagkaiba niya sa ibang steel is stainless steel, meron siyang alloying element which is chromium. Yung chromium yung tumutulong para magkaroon siya ng property na hindi siya kinakalawang. If ever na yung iron naman natin is maraming percentage of carbon, that is called cast iron. Okay? Next, pag-usapan naman natin yung non-ferrous metal. Pag sinabing non-ferrous metal, they have no iron content, giving them a higher resistance to rust and corrosion. Lastly, they are non-magnetic, which is important for many electronic and wiring applications. Because, of course, lahat naman ng metallic elements or lahat ng metal alloys natin, they are good conductors. Pero hindi lahat is mayroong good magnetic property. So, si non-ferrous metals, non-magnetic sila, and si ferrous metals, they are magnetic in nature. So, example of non-ferrous metal, first of all, is aluminum, copper, zinc, titanium, and tungsten. Pwede din natin dito include yung magnesium. So, very good example din yan ng non-ferrous metal. So, for the physical properties ng metal, kaya mga example natin na binanggit kanina, no? So, the physical properties of metals are, first, it is good electrical and heat conductors. Gaya na banggit ko kanina. Lahat ng metal, mapa-ferrous or non-ferrous, they are good electrical and heat conductors. Second, they are malleable. Pag sinabi nating malleable, they can be hammered, no, into thin sheets. So pwede mo rin siyang gawin o madali siyang pormahin sa panibagong tools, no, or panibagong bagay. So pwede siyang i-machine, madali siyang ma-machine, gano'n, or i-fabricate. Pangatlo, it is ductile. Pang-apat, it possesses metallic luster. Panghuli, it is solid at room temperature except mercury. Mercury is an example of metallic element, no, na non-ferrous, pero at room temperature, it is liquid in state. For non-metals are organic substances that do not conduct heat or electricity and are structurally brittle. First example niyan, very common, is carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, and many more pa yan. Marami pa example ng non-metals. So these are examples of non-metals na ginamit into a certain material. So for example, yung asbestos gasket. Ginagamit yan as gasket, no, yung asbestos. We also have graphite, no, another form of a carbon. Ginagamit din yung graphite. Next is graphene. Graphene is also another form of carbon, which has much better crystal structure. Kaya ginagamit din siya for certain usage. O ginamit siya dito in this case into a golf club o yung head ng golf club. Sulfur, ginagamit din natin yan. So for the physical properties of nonmetals, so nonmetals are poor electrical and heat conductors. They are also brittle. They are non-ductile. They doesn't possesses metallic luster. And they may be solid, liquid, or gas at room temperature. Next, pag-usapan naman natin yung ceramics. By definition, ceramics are compounds between metallic and non-metallic elements. Kung napapansin nyo sa definition, may binanggit na compounds. Pag sinabi kasing compounds, it is the combination of two or more elements, no? Pero dun sa pag binilikan natin yung metals, hindi nabanggit dun yung term na compound. Pero 'di ba kagaya nabanggit ko, nabanggit natin na hinahalo si iron sa iba pang element such as carbon and other metallic elements. So bakit hindi compound ang tawag doon? Kapag ang nagkaroon tayo ng bonding which is metallic sa ating elements, which is metallic elements, ang tawag natin doon is alloy. Kapag sa sa other materials such as ceramics, compounds na ang tawag natin doon. Kasi ang bonding na nangyayari is hindi metallic bond. Ang nangyayari dito is ionic bond. So this is considered as compound. So they are most frequently oxides, nitrides, and carbides. Nakikita natin bakit yan yung tatlong yan, no? Kasi karaniwan sa kanila is ganyan nga. So for example is aluminum oxide or alumina. Ito yung pinupurify into aluminum, no? It's a compound, ceramic compound. Another one is silicon dioxide or silica. Ginagamit to in glass making din. We have silicon carbide, porcelain, very common, no? We also have cement. Lastly, we have glass. So all of them are examples of ceramics. So these are the common products or byproducts of the ceramics, no? So first, we have ceramic bearing. Ceramic bearing, napakagandang type ng bearing kasi very low friction siya. Actually, siya yung isa sa mga pinaka low friction bearings na meron sa market. Okay? Dahil sa property ng ceramics, nakakapag-produce siya ng less friction. Less friction, no? So, ang disadvantage nga lang na masasabi ko sa ceramic bearing is madali siyang masira by impact. So, ang impact stress na capacity niya is hindi ganun kalaki compared sa normal steel ball bearings. No? Kasi alam naman natin kapag ang materials is steel, mataas yan sa impact strength capacity or impact strength. No? So, yun lang yung disadvantage nito. Pero very good uh, product to in terms of freewheeling. Next, we have these electrical insulators. Usually, nakikita natin siya sa mga distribution lines sa kuryente. So, ginagamit siya as insulator. Very good insulator kasi yan. Next, we have porcelain. Nalagyan na ng pagkain. So, we have floor tile and roofing tile or roofing. Lahat yan, example ng ceramics. So, i-discuss natin ano ba yung mga physical properties ng ceramics. So, first, meron siyang insulator property. Kaya kagaya nga nabanggit ko, ginagamit siya as insulator. Next, it is stiff and strong. Matigas siya. And typically very hard. Pero ang downside sa kanya, it is extremely brittle. Pag sinabi mo kasing brittle, kahit matigas yan, pag binigyan mo siya ng huge amount of force, wala siyang mapapakitang deformation. Bigla na lang siya masisira. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng brittle. And it is also non-ductile. Next na pag-usapan natin is polymers. Polymers include the familiar plastic and rubber materials. So materials such as plastics and rubbers are polymers. No? So many of them are organic compounds that are chemically based on carbon, hydrogen, and other non-metallic elements. So similarly with ceramics, this combination of elements are considered as compounds. Kasi hindi metallic bonding ang nangyayari within those elements, no? Ang nangyayari doon sa elements, nagkakaroon sila ng covalent bond. Okay? Which classifies polymers as compounds. So si polymers, it is classified into two, which are natural polymers and synthetic polymers. So example of natural polymers are this amber, wood, silk, and natural rubber. Kaya siya tinawag na natural kasi natural occurring talaga sila. Yung amber, this is the resin, which is a byproduct of tree mula sa dagta ng puno. So that is amber. Wood from the tree, that is also considered as a natural polymer. Cellulose, no? Natural polymer yon. Next is silk na pinoproduce ng mga silkworms, considered as natural. And lastly will be the natural rubber, galing din sa dagta ng puno. For synthetic polymers, ito yung mga example niyan. Bakelite, which is the first ever polymer. Nylon, ginagamit na thread, no? Ginagamit din natin siya as filament sa mga common 3D printers na ngayon. Nylon din yun. Neoprene, polyvinyl chloride or PVC, and polystyrene. So si polymers, kagaya na banggit ko kanina sa introduction, it is classified into three, which are thermosets, thermoplastics, and elastomers. So pag-usapan natin yung tatlong yon. First, let's talk about thermosets. So thermosets, it is a polymer that is irreversibly hardened by curing from a soft solid or viscous liquid pre-polymer or resin. So kaya siya tinawag na irreversibly kasi once na tumigas na yung thermoset natin, di mo na siya pwedeng i-recycle or i-reuse. Di mo na siya pwedeng tunawin at patigasin into panibagong plastic. So yun yung thermoset natin. One example of thermoset is bakelite. Bakelite is the first ever plastic or polymer that is ever made. So it is discovered in 1907 and patented on 1909. So common usage niya is just like common plastic, ginamit siya as kitchenwares. Ginagamit din siya bilang pipe material, pipe stem materials. Ginagamit din siya for as part of weapons and then for children's toy. Pero in current plastics natin, di na siya ganun ka-common. Kasi ang common na ngayon is thermoplastics such as PVC, PET, and etc. Okay? Next example is epoxy resin. Next is polyesters. Example niya itong thread na yan, that is polyester thread. And polyurethane. Si polyurethane, usually ginagamit siya as varnish, no? Marami rin yung usage. Next, let's talk about thermoplastics. Thermoplastics, it is a polymer material that becomes pliable or moldable at a certain elevated temperature and solidifies upon cooling. The difference between thermoplastics and thermosets, kasi kagaya nabanggit ko sa thermosets, permanent na yon. Hindi mo na siya pwedeng initin ulit para maporma siya into new form of plastic. Si thermoplastic, ganon. Kapag in-increase mo yung temperature, nagiging pliable or moldable siya. Tapos pwede mo siyang gamitin na i-forma into panibagong product. So that is thermoplastics. Example ng thermoplastics are PET or polyethylene terephthalate, which is common material for plastic bottles. Next is polypropylene or PP. Ginagamit siya as material for bottle cups naman. Next is polyvinyl chloride or PVC. Ginagamit siya sa piping system. And we have LDPE and HDPE. Ginagamit din siya usually sa mga containers. Lastly, elastomers. Elastomers is a polymer with viscoelasticity and has very weak intermolecular forces. Generally low Young's modulus and high failure strain compared with other materials. So ang example niya is natural rubber, which is ginagamit usually sa mga swelas ng sapatos o yan ng tsinelas. Next is polybutadiene. It is common use as in wheel fabrication. Synthetic rubbers to. Next, we have neoprene, another synthetic rubber. Ginagamit siya as material sa pang-swimming, no? Kaya elastic siya. Kasi ano siya, synthetic rubber. Another one will be silicone. Next, let's talk about composites. Composites is a material made from two or more constituent materials with significantly different physical or chemical properties that, when combined, produce a material which characteristics different from the individual components. So, ano daw siya? Combination of two or more materials. Example niyan is reinforced concrete. It is combination of concrete and other materials such as plastics, no? So that is considered as composite. Another one is reinforced plastics. Ano ba yung mga reinforced plastics? First, we have fiberglass. Si fiberglass is considered as composite kasi combination niya ng fiberglass, which is another material, and a resin. Kaya siya tinawag na composite. Another one is carbon fiber. Si carbon fiber is different material combined with another resin then. Another example will be ceramic composites, which is combinations of other ceramics, different ceramics. So, napag-usapan na natin yung 5 categories ng materials natin. So pag-usapan din natin yung ibang materials, which is yung mga advanced materials. So what are those advanced materials, or what is the definition of advanced materials? So advanced materials are materials that are utilized in high technology applications. So product that operates or functions using relatively intricate and sophisticated principles such as electronic equipment, computers, fiber optic systems, spacecrafts, aircrafts, and military rocketry. So yun yung usually usage niya. No? So first example niyan is semiconductors. Semiconductors, that is an example of advanced material. Kasi hindi mo siya makaka-classify dun sa una kong limang nabanggit, no? Pero this is a common material na ginagamit natin lalo na sa gadget. Semiconductors are especially important as varying conditions like temperatures and impurity can easily change their conductivity. So the combination of various semiconductor types together generates devices with special electrical properties which allows control of electrical signals. That's why they are very crucial in terms of the fabrication of gadgets. So example yan ng advanced material. Next example of an advanced materials will be biomaterials. So by definition, biomaterials is any substance that has been engineered to interact with biological system for medical purpose. So either a therapeutic or a diagnostic one. So kagaya dito sa mga images natin, these are a few examples of materials that has been used in medicine. So they are of course considered as biomaterials. So for example, this is a prosthetic kneecap as a replacement sa common sa naturally produced na kneecap. So that is considered to be biomaterial. And next will be the fillings kapag nagpapapasta tayo. No? So there is two kinds of filling that will be amalgam filling. Amalgam is combination of silver and mercury. And then we have composite filling which is yung common na today. Kasi puti sila, no? Another example of a biomaterial will be the nitinol stent in aortic valves. So ginagamit to kapag nagbabara yung puso. It is a special type of material, no? Which is automatically expand para hindi magbara yung daluyan ng dugo. So this is an example of biomaterial. So in terms of choosing biomaterials or designing biomaterials, it is very crucial to take care sa pagpili. Kasi very crucial yung tinatawag nating biocompatibility. Kasi kapag hindi compatible yung material na gagamitin natin with the body, hindi tatanggapin ng body yung material ngayon. So mangyayari, hindi niya masaserve yung purpose, mapapahamak pa yung tao. Next type of advanced material will be the smart materials. So ano ba yung tinatawag nating smart materials? So smart materials, they are those which possess ability to change their physical properties in a specific manner in response to stimulus input. So nakaka-classify natin siya. Ano ba yung mga common na smart materials? So first, we have piezoelectric. So di ko alam kung common na sa inyo to or narinig nyo na siya. So si piezoelectric element or material is it generates an electrical charge in response to applied mechanical stress and vice versa. So kapag nagkaroon ka ng mechanical stress with the material, nag-apply ka ng force, nagpo-produce si piezoelectric material na charges which generates electricity. Another example of a smart material is magnetostrictive materials. So it changes in dimensions of ferromagnetic material in magnetic field and vice versa. So for instance, we have the terphenol D-drive rod. Ito yan. That is a magnetostrictive material. So ginagamit siya usually in actuators. So what will happen is if the magnetic field around the material changes, the dimension of the material also changes. Kaya nagre-retract and nag-e-extend siya. So, ginagamit siya commonly in actuators. So, that is magnetostrictive. Next type of smart materials will be the phase transition dependent. So, it is also called shape memory materials because it remembers its original shape after being deformed and returns to its original shape when heated. So, for example, this material ay shape memory thermoplastic polyurethane. So, by nature, it is straight material. When you deformed it into a spring coil and then apply heat to it, it will change back to its original form. That is called phase transition dependent. Next, we have electromagnetic rheological materials. So in this type of materials, it changes in viscosity in response to electric or magnetic field. So for example, we have this material. If the material is undergoing non-magnetic field or walang magnetic field around that, it is fluid-like. Pero kapag nagkaroon ka ng magnetic field around the material, what will happen is the fluid-like material will become solid-like, just like this. So, nagbabago yung positioning ng atoms mo. So, this is an example of electromagnetic rheological materials. So, that will be the end of the lecture. If you have any questions, you can message me on my messenger or email me. Thank you.
Ba't ganito? Ba't ganon?
Hayaang buksan ang isipan
Sa science o agad